I have a special treat for everyone on today. And if you've been around for a while, you know that I had a conversation with Richard Rudd. What was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago now? It's been a while since we checked in. But for my cluster, my people listening, there are a few books that I always go back to again and again and again. And I really feel that way about your spiritual journey, that it's not about more information, it's about the right kind of information and like revisiting it over and over again, because at every level of your consciousness you soak in more depths of what the words are even saying. And the Gene Keys book is one of the books that I carry around with me everywhere. It teaches me new things every single time I read it. Richard Rudd, who is here, is the creator of everything that is the Gene Keys. And I'm sure that many of you already know what the Gene Keys are, but I think the Gene Keys, the definition of the Gene Keys is even evolving as time is evolving. So, Richard, firstly, welcome and thank you. And also, how at this point would you describe the Gene Keys, and why is it important in this time of transition? What can it give us?
Oh, thanks, Jenna. It's lovely to see you again, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you and getting into it. The Gene Keys, yeah, it is constantly transcending its own definitions, and it's sort of become over the years a sort of synthesis, a large synthesis of multiple kind of routes into the same algorithms and matrix as human design, which I'm sure your listeners will know all about, but approached in an entirely different way, and approached kind of inwardly in an entirely different way. Right. So in the same way, if I can liken it to human design at some respect, in the same way as human design has all kinds of wormholes that you can go down and explore and things, Gene Keys has also developed and evolved its own wormholes where it kind of dives into lots of different areas of consciousness. But why is it good? For now, it's loose, it's playful, it's to improve your circumstances, inwardly and outwardly. But more than that, it's actually about giving you a launch pad so that you can raise your consciousness. And it does that primarily through tackling the grittier aspects of our shadows, of our blind spots. And that has always been and seems to be one of the most important pieces of work that anyone has to do, regardless of what systems or tools they're using. And not all tools kind of point there, but it's essential that we go and understand what is the shadow inside us, and how does it operate, and how do we transform it, and then what does it become, and it becomes something magnificent through the lens of the Gene Keys. So I think that's why the Gene Keys are kind of very unique in the world, and they're especially unique because they are a profiling system that gives you, well, that's a very limited definition profiling system. That's one aspect of the Gene Keys, is the profile. There's lots of others, but they do give you a view of yourself at the widest possible, set of parameters in language. So you can't you
Yes.
can't kind of touch a more transcendent view of yourself in language without going into silence. So they start with the richness and the depth and the difficulty and the challenge of the shadow. They unlock, the practical creative gifts of our genius, and then they lead us towards a transcendent, divine, kind of grace-filled view of ourselves and the world. So I guess that's why they're needed.
Yeah, it's as you're speaking, and I've never thought about this before, but as time goes on, I really see the interplay between free will and destiny, that obviously there are both, right? And as you're speaking, I'm kind of realizing like the Gene Keys is almost the band of the free will that you have to play, right? Because it can, everything that you have, every quality that you have in yourself, the Gene Keys are saying it can play out in the shadow aspect, it can play out in a gift aspect, it can play out in the highest, what you call the city, right? So I guess that's the hand that we have to play, is like, what do we make out of these parts of us? And then maybe there are other things that are we're not in control of, right? Like whatever life kind of brings to us, but the hand you play is what you already have inside you, and how do you express it? And then what I think is so beautiful is, it's one thing if someone was just to tell you all your shadows, but with the Gene Keys, it holds this amazing potential, this hope of like, here's what it can be if you transform it, if you address it, if you contemplate it, if you sit with it. And you're very big on contemplation. And I want to ask you about that, because I think in the sort of spiritual industry right now, let's call it that, there's almost, we've transferred our sort of like workaholism and not enoughness and earning and proving into our self-help, where we're like, it's got to be tough and you've got to like do all the tools and throw the stuff at it and do all this. And what I find so refreshing about you is that this thing about contemplation, which is simpler, but it's also harder in a way because it's unknown and there is no structure to it and you don't know where it's going to go. So I want to ask you about the value of contemplation in transforming your shadow aspects and turning them into this gold that it's on the other side.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, by the way. And contemplation is like my most passionate subject. And it's the core of Gene Key's work, really, because it's, there's all the profiles and all the bells and whistles and stuff, but actually the central technique of contemplation is the most important thing. And it's like, for type and strategy is for human design, contemplation is for Gene Keys. And what contemplation does, I mean, in a way, I might say some more radical things, because I seem to be in that phase at the moment. Unless you're armed with contemplation, I don't think you can enter any system and not be in danger of being trapped in the system. Mm-hmm. Because contemplation puts a kind of cushion around your own mind and your ego, because it gives you a pause so that you can see yourself. And unless you have that capacity, or you've developed that capacity, it's very easy to fall for your ego's tricks and your mind's tricks and your mind's fixed needs. So the mind looks for things that make it feel safe and secure and fixed, and contemplation doesn't allow you to get away with that. You can have those things, but it kind of it creates a spaciousness in your inner being so that you actually can't hold anything too tightly, because the contemplative arena kind of sees everything as relative. And so that's why I said it's a slightly more refined kind of person that finds their way into a contemplative way, because you can't get hooked on, you actually can't really get hooked on on one system or one set of tools or one teacher or one teaching. You can't, because contemplation, it's what gives you true freedom. And that might be hard for people to understand, but it's and it also allows for, certain stage people need tools that are fixed and help them feel secure and stable so that they can rebuild their own self-empowerment, or they can work on their shadows in whatever way they are. And so it sees that as well. It sees everything, contemplation, but it doesn't hold on to anything. And it's wider than meditation. It can include meditation as a technique, but it's very, very broad. It's a deep inner focus that we develop in our everyday life, and it kind of goes on. We widen contemplation through the pauses of our lives. So pausing becomes a key, and pausing then becomes, it doesn't mean doing nothing, pausing either. It doesn't mean stopping what you're doing. It means giving spaciousness for your awareness, your pure awareness, to then kind of create a field where clarity and magic can collide or collude, and then you begin to see things for what they actually are. So if you'll allow me also, can I just say one little thing, because you mentioned the free will thing. And if you look through lens of Gene Key's shadow gift, Siddhi being the highest, state, the shadow is, because it's a victim state, and you can look at every Gene Key or every gate in your design, as having a shadow aspect that can play out. That feels, when you're in that victim state, it feels like you don't have free will. It feels like you're stuck, and it just keeps repeating. You know, once you release that shadow and you transform it and you experience the creative gift coming out of it, you then feel self-empowered and you feel
Mm-hmm.
free. And that's where you experience the kind of field of free will, because suddenly you're like empowered to do, and you are,
Mm.
this is me. I can do what I want. I can do this or that or other. I'm no longer a victim of those states or those people or that ideas or that relationship, because
Mm.
you're able to then decide for yourself in an empowered way. And then the siddhi, which is the highest transcendent state, it kind of returns back
Yeah.
to no free will. Because when you attain that state or you have glimpses, you realize you don't exist as an individual. You're just
Mm-hmm.
part of a field, and therefore, it's not true to say that I just made that decision. The whole just made that decision through this thing I call me, and
Mm-hmm.
so, and actually, biochemistry or neurochemistry now confirms this, that decisions are made without us knowing. We, you know, a split second before we actually jump on them and go, "Oh, that was me." Actually, the decision was
Mm.
made deep in the neurological circuitry of our brains before we actually became aware of it. So, so it's at the highest level that transcendent awareness sees all that and goes, "Well, I'm part of the whole, rather than I
Mm.
am." You know, so it, yeah. So rather than I am, or I am
It's
Richard.
fascinating.
Yeah,
It's fascinating that you say that because this is something, and please be as radical as possible because I think everyone here is on the same page and we all just need to, especially in this time of transition, we need to just be telling each other the truth because that's such a gift now, you know? It doesn't serve anyone to inflate ego and be there and love and light. And of course, there is love and light underneath it all, but, um, there's also being a spiritual grown up a little bit, which I think we're all being faced with at the moment. So I love that you say you're in a radical space at the moment because we need radical people to pull us forward into this new paradigm. But I want to ask you because words often fail us. And so your definition of contemplation might be different from mine and what everyone else is understanding as contemplation. And I just want to ask a really, really basic question, which is like,
brilliant.
what if you were explaining contemplation, if you're talking to a complete newbie who's never really understood or thought that that was an important part of their practice, or someone who's just had a desire to work on themselves internally just recently, and they're saying to you, how do I contemplate? Help me out from that lens of maybe needing a
Definitely.
little bit of an on-ramping to start doing it,
Yeah. So
and maybe not
yeah,
how, but why do we not, and what do we need to overcome to be okay with it?
yeah. I mean, the our addiction to activity is one of the things that prevents us from being contemplative. And some of the greatest kind of teachers that we've had in the West, right, and in the East, it's obvious because they have ancient traditions of contemplation that have come out. When we know we're all into them. But the West is also the same, like going right back to like Plato and then going through the deep philosophers like Aristotle and people like that. They were all deep contemplatives. They were people that gave time to thinking about things in real depth, and not just thinking, because what you can start by thinking about something in depth. For a
Mm,
start, you have to give time to that. If you're scrolling all the time and you're doing it, you don't have time to kind of allow deeper thoughts and questions to permeate the layers of your being, because that's what contemplation requires. It's like it requires steepage time. It's not a fast word, it's a slow burn contemplation. Like, so you might have a question, right? So there's lots of ways you can contemplate, right? So let's say I have a health issue, right? Then let's train the lens of contemplation on that health issue, right? So the first thing you might do is you might start to explore, well, what it could be. You might use ChatGPT, you might do whatever, you might go and see the doctor, you might, right? But you're entering into a contemplative awareness around that thing.
mm,
And then you have to give freedom, you have to give the space, so you can't rush at like, I need to know now what it is. right? You've got to go, this is a mystery, and I'm going to wrap my
Mm.
whole being around it until I've received an insight that's come from inside me, from my own deep wisdom. And what's what contemplation does? It provides you the space and the time and the patience so that we can tap the incredible wisdom that the body has, because the body knows why you've got that thing, whatever it is, that health thing. It can tell you exactly what that is. Your body, it knows. So how are you going to tap that wisdom unless you give space? And so contemplation has layers and layers. And we have this thing in the brain called the default mode network, right? Which is a really important part of this, because it means we have to sort of daydream. Contemplation is it's like it. Once you ask yourself a question, you're committed to finding out what that is. You have to be really patient, and that means that your brain and your, not just your brain, but your whole being is working on that problem, even when you're not working on it. So even when you're doing the dishes, or you're out doing a job, or you've forgotten all about it, it's still going on in this default mode network in the brain and in other places in the body. You're digesting a thing, but you have to keep on asking the question, and it keeps. So what you need is pauses or spaces so that insights can percolate up to the surface. So the first discipline of contemplation is to create more pauses in your everyday life, and you have to become a pausing type person again, which means that
Mm.
it's a gentle, creative, fun discipline. Like I call them harvesting pauses. And once we created a little app, Gene Keys app, right? The Triple Flame app. It's free on the App Store, and it just gives you a pause every 3 hours. It's really like, that's it. 3 hours
Mm.
goes by, and then it goes bing on a usually on a 3, a 6, a 9, a 12, but you can
Mm.
change that. And then it gives you 3 minute pause now. 3 minute pause every 3 hours. That is not much, but you'd be surprised how hard that is for some people, for all of us actually. And then what it
Mm.
does is it begins to entrain you with like, oh yeah, I can just take 3 minutes. And you can put your feet up
Mm.
for 3 minutes. You can look out the window. You can go for a walk. You don't have to do nothing. You don't have to meditate. Although the
Mm.
app provides you with some little meditations that you can listen to, or you can put some music on. What you want is you just need to inhabit that pause in some way, and then you get used to it, and then you develop more of them. And then what that does, it begins to chip away at this addictive spinning mindset that we have, that's all strategic, that's all focused on getting somewhere or getting something or finishing something,
Mm.
and then moving straight on to the next thing. So that's an
Mm.
example. Like when we finish something, if you've learned the discipline of pausing, you then pause after you've finished it before you rush
Mm.
to the next thing. And so it's very
Mm.
creative actually, because you can kind of pump pauses into your day in all kinds of ways, and you can be very generous. You can be very sort of soft with yourself. It's a very gentle process. You shouldn't be pressurizing. There's no pressure. It's not like you're sitting with a frown trying to meditate or contemplate.
Mm.
You don't do that. It's completely the opposite. It's
Mm.
like you almost tease yourself into a contemplative state. And the Gene Keys is
Mm.
all designed to help you, remind you to contemplate yourself, your shadows, because that shadow might be connected to that health issue. Let's face it, it's going to be in some way. So you got to understand, well, what does that word corruption mean? Well, I don't understand. I'm not corrupt. What does that really
Mm.
mean? If you go deep into the process and into like, what does that mean, that
Mm.
Gene Key, that 50th gate, like why
Mm.
is it, where, what does it really mean for me? And then over a period
Mm.
of time, I've written a little book about the contemplation. It's only like under 100 pages. I don't know if
I
you've got
have
it.
it.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
so over time you get an insight. That's the first thing. Bing. At a certain point in a pause, you'll have an insight. A light bulb will go off in your head and you'll be like, I think I know what it is.
Mm.
And then you go a bit deeper, and the contemplation carries on going deeper into your emotional body, to your emotional being. And then you might talk about it, you might be sharing, you might be learning more about it. I'm still following the health issue, right? and
Mm.
and then you're beginning to feel it more inside, from the inside out. And at a certain point you may, you will at some point, if you keep contemplating, get a breakthrough. And a breakthrough is an emotional opening and you'll really feel
Mm.
it in your body. And then the deepest level is an epiphany, which are rarer, but that if you carry on contemplating and it's a deep issue, eventually
Mm.
that shadow will reveal its gift, and then you will have a moment of grace in which you suddenly it's actually it's gone. Whatever it was, the shadow pattern underneath it, and that could take years, right? If it's a deep
Yeah.
seated issue, it could take years. It could take a bit of therapy. It could take some help on the outside. It could take lots of things that you're doing as
Hmm.
part of your contemplative journey. But
Mm.
essentially, you are committed to finding out for yourself through your own being and body what the answer
Mm.
is. So
Yeah.
that was a big example. And there are lots
I
of
love it.
ways of using it for small things as well. You want to understand, you know, why that person's treating you that way. You can use
Yes.
contemplation. You'll get an answer.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's a muscle we train, but it's not mental only. Mental
Mm.
is the sort of outside of it.
Hmm.
It's wisdom of the wisdom of the body. It's deeper even than intuition.
Yeah.
So don't mistake it only for intuition. It's deeper than that. It comes from the
Hmm.
deep belly. It comes wells up from every cell of our being. Truth. It's truth that emerges through our body. So it's an
Yeah.
awakening. Actually, is what it is.
Oh, oh, I mean, your words are just so freeing, and it's making me realize so many things that what we were talking about with the systems, it's when you can use a system from the, let's say, old paradigm understanding, which is I have to know and I have to learn all the information and then I'm done and then I have to figure out how to do it and then I'll be fine.
Yes.
And it's still not contending with this unknown, which unknown is scary to us, but unknown is magic, unknown is liminality, unknown is the ineffable, unknown is where we dance with the divine, right? That's where, if you want to use the word co-creation, it's like, is it from our deep belly and our cells? Like, where did that come from? It's what you said. It's like this space where there's magic and it reveals itself to you and you can't force it and you can't make it happen and you don't know when it's going to make it. You don't know when it's going to happen. Is it the first pause? Is it the 100th pause? It's that
Exactly.
surrender to that thing. But you're making me realize that any system or tool or doctor or anything that quote unquote worked in a true long term, long lasting place is probably because it has caused you at some point to have more of a contemplation than you did before, like probably more of a entering into um, changing something in your world with that other lane that is underneath the lanes that we try to run in. But it's also making me realize that, this is when they say like the power is all within you. But it's making me realize why is it so scary is because you don't have control over that unknown space. Like we have to fully like let go of the reins in many ways, and we have to say, well, I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't feel like I'm fully in charge. I don't feel like I have this full control in the sort of old way of describing control, but I've kind of done it enough times to know that it works. And or I'm so sick of my old ways that I want to try it. But I also want you to speak about, yes, you can not want to contemplate because you're addicted to action, but I think that there's also another thing where it's like we don't even want to contemplate because it's too scary to even face it, and we're holding on to like not even like facing the, okay, if I say I have a health issue, it's almost so overwhelming that I even face it because I don't even know what to do now, and no one's holding my hand through this empty space. And there's so much ego death going on at the moment, which is amazing. But I just feel like you enter into this total aloneness. You almost have to face total aloneness and total lack of control to then feel the anything but alone and anything but out of control and everything will be okay. But that's almost like the gate we have to feel free enough to enter through in order to get everything we're wanting on the other side. So I guess I just want to ask you about that other kind of use case of it, where we just don't even want to contemplate because of the overwhelm of feeling and emotion that we might first feel when we get into contemplation.
Mm. Yeah, I love your insights, Jenna. I just want to say, I'm always really impressed by your level of maturity spiritual and emotional maturity. I'm, it's not that common. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I think, when you also, as I say, as you kind of hone the lens, the prism of contemplation over years, you start to kind of inhabit a new kind of clarity, a lucidity. And that's a very difficult thing to understand. There's a lucidity. It's like what I just said about you. Like, you are obviously have opened up something inside you so that you can see things clearly. And that prism is very, very reliable, because it means wherever you begin to look, you can begin to see truth and discern it from not truth. Right. So you can see it in the weirdest places, and it becomes a worldview then, and you can begin to see the clarity, but in everything. And the highest states of illumination allow you to kind of really see the essence in everything with deep compassion. And that's like the most important thing in a way, is like, the reason we don't want to look at our own shadows is because we fear ourselves. We fear that we will be harsh with ourselves. That's the weirdest thing. So if you make a pact with yourself, I'm going to be gentle with myself. That's why my central teaching is gentleness and patience. So if you say, right, inside here is a wounded animal, how do I treat a wounded animal? I certainly don't go rushing at it with a book and lots of answers and like, this is what you do, and you do. It's like, no, I treat it with infinite patience and gentleness and softness, and I wait until it's ready to open. And so when we have the courage to look at our own shadows, and feel the discomfort, that's the attitude we need to teach ourselves. Self-parenting, like, you really treat yourself with care and patience. You're not going to get the answer to this probably straight away. It's going to might take you years. But if you are really patient, that's okay if it takes years. If you think about it, it's okay. As long as I get there, as long as I get to the bottom of this issue that I've got, that's all right. It doesn't matter. So if you kind of approach yourself with that sense of timelessness, then that gentleness, then you will begin to heal every difficulty that you've ever experienced, no matter how harsh it was when it happened. And it might be something traumatic from your childhood, or even from a past existence, or something in your family lineage. If you treat yourself with deep care and respect, you will start to open. And that is the other side of contemplation, is it's very heartful. It's about treating yourself with deep care. And once you start to do that, you start to open, and it's a muscle that you have to develop again. And it leads to self-assurance, and it does take time, because I remember the early days for me, like, I was just thinking, like, and many people might think the same, like, as you start tackling your own issues, there's a feeling of like, does this ever end?
Yeah.
Do you ever get to the bottom of this pain? And actually, yes, you do. Eventually you get to the bottom, and then it's it's a downhill journey right down the other side, and it becomes easier and easier and easier. And
Yeah.
because you have access to more and more and more self-love, and it's true self-love, it's soft self-love. It's not like kind of, it's like you said, like, it's not certainty, only in the sense that love is certain of itself. It's not mental certainty. It's a deeper, it's like you drop into the love field, which is the only antidote to the uncertainty of the mind and the world, because the world is so uncertain. But then through the heart, the uncertainty actually becomes a mystery and adventure instead of a terror. And then your whole life just turns into an adventure. But it's not like you can do that suddenly. Like, it's a contemplative path. It takes time. That's why in my teachings, I lay out things over long periods of time. And I invite people in and I say, look, this is going to take you years probably. But that's okay. Like, and I'll make sure you can just come in and be part and take care of yourself. And then you're going to go through these stages of opening and layers of sequences of understanding yourself and healing these shadows. and then the
Mm.
deep, and then those gifts that you've looked at, those words that you have in there, that relate to you, like words like,
Yeah.
lightness, or well, I don't know. What are yours, Jenna?
My main one is 19.
Oh yeah, which is sensitivity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you become more and more sensitive to everything around you, but not oversensitive and not
Mm.
insensitive. Those are the extremes, but truly
Yeah.
sensitive to everything. That's what I was saying about the clarity. You have a sensitivity to be able to listen between the gaps of
Mm.
where truth may be hiding, and it may be hiding even in a lie, or it may be hiding in someone else's denial. But you can see the truth because you have that sensitivity, to
Mm.
feel into your environment and into the world around you. And we
Yeah.
all have those gifts, and they start as like they can be just sort of the kind of career like gifts, but then they
Mm-hmm.
become more subtle gifts and they become more
Mm.
spiritual gifts.
Mm.
So that sensitivity becomes an understanding at the deepest level of the principle of sacrifice, which is spiritual
Yeah.
sacrifice, which is the understanding that everything gives of itself for the sake of everything else, whether it knows it or not. So everything is then interconnected through a beautiful giving of itself for the sake of everything else, and that's love. That's love in action. You know, so
I think,
it
yeah,
becomes
they all are at the
yeah,
highest level,
yeah, it
right?
becomes poetic. And then your life
Mm.
starts through. That's why contemplation as a path was always traditionally done by, or it ended in like poetry or calligraphy or flower arranging or
Mm.
some form of
Mm.
mastery, or that was all about beauty. Because the
Yeah.
highest reaches of contemplation just turn to beauty. You're just like, oh my God, everything is beauty. Everything I see, even the
Yeah.
ugliness. That's
Yeah.
why the Japanese would like that you break your thing and then we're going to repair it with gold and it's going to be even more beautiful
Mm.
than it was before, this pot. And then they
Yeah.
apply that philosophy to everything. And so did the
Mm.
Western philosophers. They applied that, like the Stoic philosophers were amazing. They were very deep
Mm.
contemplators, and they took mistakes and they went, let's find the gold in this mistake I've made,
Mm.
where I hurt
Mm.
that person. Where's the gold for me in that? And they use everything
Mm.
as fuel for their own transcendence. So yeah,
Yeah. It's so beautiful that it really does make you see, and it makes you feel so relaxed and held because you know this mystery, you're living in this like lane of mystery, and you know it's going to unfold itself in such a different way that you don't feel like you have to have your own. I mean, you don't feel like you have to be in charge all the time because you know there's this like deep undercurrent that you can kind of dance with underneath no matter what life throws your way. So you don't need to figure out what life is throwing away. But I want to say thank you for not lying to people because it does take time. But what's going to take more time is trying to solve it through the mental plane. What's going to take more time is the time that is spent delaying and putting off this, right? By trying to solve our problems and trying to rush to action and trying to control like all of that. And there's times when I still do it and I give myself so much grace, but I've gotten to a place where I'm like, I now know that all I'm doing is soothing my ego or my not self or whatever you want to call it, because I may as well just do the harder thing, which is go into that cave, whatever that figurative cave, right? For even just a second, if that's all I can muster in that moment. And that I can't make the answer come sooner. I can pull a fake answer to me sooner, but that's just to soothe my ego. And so, do I want the soothing? And sometimes that's fine. And sometimes I'll go on YouTube and just jump around and do my thing. But ultimately, like, you get to this place where you're like, okay, well, I know the cave's coming. And that's the part that I have to, like, that's going to be the actual solve. You know what I mean? Like, it's always there. Um, and I really, really, I'm so grateful that there are people like you that are saying, like, it's not a one and done. It isn't going to I don't have a 21-day fix for you, and we hate to hear that.
we hate it.
But we also there's something that is so relieving when someone tells you the truth.
Yeah, there's this huge, contemplation is a beautiful, beautiful path because it's so generous. Because it just says,
Mm,
it doesn't matter how long it takes. Does it matter? Honestly, does it matter to your heart how long it takes for you to feel love again? Like, as long as your heart knows the path towards that, and its path of gentleness, then
mm,
it's found the thing. It's like you found it. You don't need anything. You found it. It's gentleness. That's the secret.
mm,
Patience and
mm,
gentleness will get you there. And that's why I kind of said at times, like, awakening, thing that people always say, what is awakening? Awakening is a series of
mm,
softenings, that we just go on yielding more deeply to the mystery inside us.
mm,
And there's so much healing that takes place through that softening. And it doesn't
mm.
make you soft. It makes you the opposite. It makes you incredibly clear and lucid. And
Yeah.
yeah, it gives
It's like
you
a samurai,
gives you
it
a
gives you
backbone.
samurai level.
Yeah,
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 totally. It's funny that you say that. I've been thinking about this so much recently where everything folds in on itself almost when you look at things from that lens. I call it like being in on the joke. It's like when you understand, like, oh, this is what life's actually about. I see you, Divine. Like, you're kind of hilarious and you have a sense of
yeah,
humor, and I get what you're doing with all of this, and I see the perfection in how you designed everything, and it's brilliant and amazing and annoying and like also kind of
yeah,
funny. But there is something that is so confounding and kind of almost irritating when you first, not even when you first, when you've kind of done this enough, when you've sat with yourself enough, that I think when you first get into spirituality, there's a lot of like manifesting and not to hate on any of these processes at all, but it's all about what can I get from my spirituality, right? And then you attach, like you might have an idea, like I want my soulmate, or I want this career, or I want the safety, or beautiful things that we could want. But then you understand that even if everyone else in the world had that thing, and that was what they had to feel safe, or that was what was right for them, or that was what was correct for their path, you don't even need to decide what is right or wrong, because like I could call in and I could manifest the most beautiful thing, and if it was not right for me, it I would burn it to a crisp, and it would burn me to a crisp. And so there's an amazing feeling that you get, but that's also a very confusing feeling when you realize the like silliness of wanting, thinking that the fact that you need to figure out what to want is going to get it to you sooner, or that it's going to help you feel better or more elevated, or whatever the thing you want behind the thing you like, what you think it's going to give you. You see the kind of like just rendering completely useless that is, but it's also so lonely and weird, and it makes you feel like you're not of this world. Or that's where I'm at. So like help me out at least.
yeah. Well, I was telling you earlier, like, so in last summer, I recorded a series with Werner Pitzau, a dear friend of mine, and we started our human design adventure together back in the days of Ra, and so we decided 30 years later to come back, and he's been a therapist in Germany, for Austria, for 30 years, and I've been doing what I've been doing for 30 years. And then we came back, and we've seen each other and down the years, we're very good friends. We decided, let's look again at human design through the lens of our where we are at now in our lives. And we
Mm,
spent a week together being filmed, and it was a lot of fun. And one of the things that Werner did first is he showed me this map, which you may have heard of. It's called ego development theory, and it's a really interesting theory, or series of kind of understandings. So, sort of in the Ken Wilber world of that kind of way of thinking, where you're
mm,
looking at different modalities and ways in which we evolve spiritually. And like you mentioned earlier, like there's waking up, but then there's growing up, and people don't
mm,
understand, so you can be quite a grown up person but never have had an awakening experience, right? Or you can be someone that's had a big awakening experience. Maybe you had ayahuasca, maybe something, right? But you haven't grown up at all, right? So you
mm-hmm,
you may even be pretty awake, but the thing you haven't done is grown up, right? So it's like you're the kid with a Lamborghini, right? you know, right? So you've got this like, or you've got a lot of something high, but you emotionally you're just still in a mess, and you're not really self-aware. So anyway, ego development theory traces the arc of why people go to different tools and systems, what for, and it's nothing right. It's just an arc, right? It's not.
Yep.
You are where you are in the arc. It's actually really good to know where you are in the arc. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're not better if you're up the blue end. It means that you've evolved your brain and your spirit in some way further, because you're not attached to one thing anymore. And then it sort of goes further. So in a way, that's why I'm saying like Gene Keys sort of talks to those blue realm people more, because it's about contemplation. It's about uncertainty. This is like, okay, what happens when we move deeper into uncertainty? Because now we have some basic, we've gone through those. I feel self-assured. I've got some healing under my belt. I've dealt with some deep issues. I'm now ready to go into some deeper realm. I'm going to let go of some of those systems a bit, or I'm going to loosen them in my being, so they still can be handy and useful, but I'm going to like look into like some wilder ones that like are non-strategic, and they're a bit more nebulous. And so you start to maybe look at kind of different tools that are kind of more mysterious and less strategic, that are more to do with wisdom, and rather than knowledge. And so you begin to kind of then, I mean, the one of the highest sort of furthest levels is the wizard. I think you become the wizard, which is where none of them, there's just a toolbox, right? And you're not attached to any of the tools. You just go, well, this situation calls for the spanner, so we'll get it out and use it. This situation, screwdriver, okay. And you don't care. You just put them back in the box afterwards. You're not attached to any of them. So that, and then you're sort of into union, and and so, but it's really interesting as a map, because we started to look at why different people are drawn to different systems, and we started to look at human design first. And we looked at the language and why the language, when it was strategic language, and you could see how it was appealing to that group of people. And then we put the gene keys into it and it appealed to a different group of people. And then we started to like ask deep questions. We were like, well, and this is Vernon Pitzel and myself. I ran a human design school in the UK for years. So I was like, kind of an expert in that, and he's an expert in that, right?
Kind of. Or you also have books about human design.
Written books on it, right?
I have many of them.
But the expert is one of the levels in the yellow, right? I'm not an expert anymore. I've gone past it. Not that I'm beyond that, but
return to using it in its rightful place, right? It's how you,
So what we did is we looked at everything anew. We were like, well, we had this walk one evening, I remember, and we were like talking about things really deep, and we're going through the streams, the circuitry, what it's called, right? And we first of all disassembled all the language, right? So we identified them all first. We were like, okay, what are other ways we could describe that? And even like words like hermit and heretic. We were looking at them and going, that these are right archaic but interesting archetypal terms. So we analyzed all the language and changed it, in our own way. And then we were like going, well, what the hell is definition then? Remember, this is two experts in human design for 20 years, 30 years. And we're like, what's definition in a chart with a bit that's colored in between two, or it could be between two centers, or it could be just a gate, if you're a reflector or something. We were like, what is that? Right? And it was really funny. We were like, I don't know.
Wow.
And so we went for this long walk, but by the time we come back, we figured out what it was. And we had a whole revelation. We had an epiphany. We were like, it's the soul's curriculum. That's what it is. It's not who you are, because who you are cannot be put on a piece of paper or in words. It can't. It was too mysterious.
It's too big.
Right? Yeah. So that it's describing your curriculum in this life. And then we started to look at that, and we were like, well, if I have a thing that connects two centers, that's a fixed curriculum, I cannot get away from that curriculum. Until I've mastered it, it's not going to leave me alone, whatever the lesson is. And it's going to have shadows in there, right? And gifts and cities. So there's going to be a whole learning in those centers and in that. And we have like shadow words for the centers as well, and names for the channels as well, shadow words for the channels. And So the whole thing
Mm.
then becomes a kind of a voyage of learning. And then if
Yeah.
you had like a center that wasn't defined, but it had two gates in it, that
Mm.
would be like extra curriculum, you know? So that it wouldn't be
Yeah.
it wouldn't be your fixed curriculum. It would be like, here's some
Mm.
additional classes you're going to take from time to time.
That's funny.
And every now and you might be in a relationship with someone that completes one of those, in which case that person is going to give you a master class in that curriculum until you've
Mm.
learned it. But everything is about until you've learned it. And
Literally.
and so it then helped us understand the frame of human design in a completely new way, because
Mm.
it meant that it wasn't, it had a verticality to it. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow,
Mm-hmm.
you actually, this is a curriculum, and if you pass
Mm-hmm.
the exams, you're done with the
Mm.
curriculum, and then you can
Yeah.
explore any part of it you want. And that was the thing that
You
I
get the
always,
gifts.
yeah, that was the thing that I always, Werner pointed out. It said, like, the majority of the body graph is empty, like sort of like 80-90% is actually not at all, it's white, right? And so he was like, well, that's not us, that is us. So don't, you have to get away from like thinking you're the bit that's colored in. We're all of it.
Mm.
It's the same in Gene Keys,
Yeah.
right? We have all the keys, but we have
Mm-hmm.
certain curriculum bits of keys that we're here to learn from. But once we've
Mm.
learned from them, we actually have access to the full curriculum, which means we're
Yeah.
then unlimited in our
Totally.
in the dimensions of our learning. We're no longer on a piece of paper. We're no longer kind of
Mm.
connected into a chart or a set of
Yeah.
paradigms from an astrology perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we've broken through our astrology, and
Mm.
we're in the wild kind of wilderness now of consciousness.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
so it's very useful in showing us what our curriculum is, as long as we
Absolutely.
then apply that learning in the curriculum, you know. So it was like,
Mm-hmm.
it was a way, it was a new way of coming into a system that was very,
Mm.
very refreshing for both of us, because it felt very
I
freeing.
can imagine. And I think that it's also, as your consciousness changes, the whatever you're looking at, if you're reading a book, if you're listening to something you listened to 10 years ago, you literally have a different relationship to that thing because you're different. And so it's you that has made that thing kind of flower open to you in a different way. And so I think you can use every modality for making yourself feel not good enough. You can use every modality for making yourself feel like you are better than other people, spiritual
Yeah,
ego, right?
yeah,
You can use it to reconfirm things. Like, let's say, for example, I really need to feel like I am strategic to be okay with myself. We all do this. We can be tricksy like this. And we know we're doing it too. We can like contort the information to give it the answer that we need it to give it to us so that we can say that we are that to ourselves and to other people. And so
yeah,
we can just kind of carry on. So we like use it to just confirm
yeah,
our idea of who we need to be for ourselves. So there's so many different layers that you can look at something, and whether you get the highest potential thing that it can give you in that wizard toolbox is actually how you interact with it. And you can burn it or you can make it gold, as long as you don't deify it, as long as you don't take it literally, as long as you don't espouse it, die on its hill, and 25,000 other things that you can do to make that thing
mm,
actually just serve your ego. And that's why it's like, it's so close, like the light in the dark at the moment, it's so close because it hides in human design. It can hide in the way someone uses the gene keys or
totally.
contemplates. It can hide in, and the most absolute light can also hide in what we think is weird and dark and all this kind of stuff. And so we're in this place where like they're I don't know if you feel this, but they're like hairs apart in so many places of our lives at the
Yeah,
moment. And you really have to be that spiritual samurai to be able to like know when even just a 1 degree off, you like dip back into the old thing. But what I love, and you're such a wordsmith, so it makes all the sense in the world to me that you'd be softening the language, and I'm so excited to dive into that when you do release it, when it comes at its right time. But I feel like, again, it's like, are you going to get hung up on the words and let that kind of make you feel doomed or make you feel whatever? Or are you going to feel into like what you're doing? Like, are you going to feel into the truth of that and then understand that in your own way and see it to higher heights. And that's the, I want everyone to know that they are capable of that. It's not a something that you have to know how to do. You and I aren't even going to tell you what our version of it is because it's not going to be your version. We're speaking the same language, but our experience of it is entirely different, but also exactly the same. But my hope and my prayer is for everyone to get to that place where they are the magician, where they're like, oh, all roads lead to Rome, and they're all saying the same thing, and I know when to pull this one out, and I know when to pull that one out, but it's not the control over me, it's not the answer to everything in this world, and therefore it never has to disappoint me or be on this, come off of its pedestal that I put it on that it never needed to be on.
Mm.
Um,
And sometimes we do have to go through those experiences as well of like
mm,
putting something or someone on a pedestal, and then it will fall off, and then we have to go through that disappointment. It's important. I mean, loads of people have like done that with success in the world, right? They spent their
mm-hmm,
whole life attaining success to find it's empty,
mm-hmm,
you know, and then they're like,
yeah,
wow, no one told me this, all that effort.
I know. And what you said about things taking time and being okay with the fact that things take time, this is the reason why we have to be okay with things taking time. Because if you invest 40 years or 50 years of your life going to something that promises like a false certainty or a false light, a false joy and satisfaction, which is more of a satisfaction that's like bells and whistles and jazz hands. There's something that's odd about the type of joy and satisfaction and peace and love that sort of deeper contemplation gives you. It weirdly doesn't have this like these high cortisol highs. It's different, and it's weird because you have to almost give up that kind of artificial high that we're chasing. But I think about, for me, for example, with a soulmate, I had this reframe recently, and I've shared this before at a talk I did recently, but from the point of view of the soul, does it care if it found and experienced love on the last day of its life versus now? No, it doesn't care because it's a success either way. And that even is a thing to cling on to, right? Like, what is the thing behind the soulmate is whatever I think it's going to bring me, right? Like more love in my life, an experience of connection, um, a deep knowing that there is, finding a deep reflection of yourself in another human so that you kind of see that divinity in each other or you feel less alone. And some of these are not even correct things to be asking for, right? And it's something that I'm still in the process of exploring and contemplating. But what I really just, my hope and my prayer for all of everyone listening right now and also for the world is that, like, please let us not get to the point where we're like, oh my God, and it smacks you in the face where you're like, it was a total waste. And now, after all these years, I'm in a rush to get to the thing that is actually important with this life.
Yeah.
And can we just really realize in advance that there is something that is more important, and then then all the other things come, or they might not, but you're kind of fine either way, and good things are going to come to you, and you don't know what they are, and you don't have to know what they are, but they're going to be better ones than the ones you can craft yourself anyway. But I've just seen it so many times of people getting to something that felt like a shell when they got it. And I think this is resonating with people who are listening. So, what kind of a message do you have, or what kind of words do you have for that place of being in, like, I have to give up the thing that I think is going to solve all my problems and make me feel fine again? Because I kind of have a feeling like 80% of me is hoping that it does, but maybe there's like a small thing in me that's like wanting to understand that maybe it doesn't, but no one tells me how to be okay with that.
Well, it's like you've got to be so careful of the strategic mind, because the strategic mind will
Mm.
say, well, if I give this up, then I'll get the awakening. So if I give up it's like, it's subtle, right? Like, so you can't even use that as a strategy. So I'm gonna stop trying to get my happiness because that'll get me the happiness. Stopping, right? And you've got to follow your soul's journey. You've got to follow the arc. You just got to be passionate So if you
Mm.
need to follow that arc towards success, whatever it is, follow it 100%. Just like let yourself go and into it, and but go into it with the awareness that you may well end up being totally disappointed. Just just open
Mm.
yourself to the like that idea, like this could end badly, right? And that's what
Wow.
happens is like, you know, threads dismantle themselves if
Mm.
we follow them with totality, you know, and then
Mm.
and usually quicker than we realize. So contemplation is, it really does give you the generosity. You know, I'd even say like, I don't know, I mean, when you get into a when you become a contemplative person, you see so many things differently. Like one of the things that seems obvious to me now, but it never used to, is that our lives go on after death,
Mm.
right? I've also had people, you know, in my life, there's plenty of them, my parents among them, die, and then felt them living on in the area
Yeah.
around me, or just felt their continuity, and and then because of the way I've lived my own life, I have noticed remnants of other existences
Mm.
that have come up as shadows, not negative shadows, almost echoes, I could say.
Yes.
And so I've recognized things and places and people, and then I've begun to piece together like a jigsaw. Oh, I've done
Mm.
this loads before, and even begun to sense like where it's heading next, the trajectory onwards. And so I
Mm.
realize I'm in a much bigger frame than I ever believed possible. And because some of those memories have come back into my body, not my mind, you know, my mind can
Mm.
paint pictures around, but it's a bodily thing first because you feel it
Mm.
as an epiphany, because contemplation delivers epiphanies, you know.
Mm.
But unless you slow
Mm.
down, you don't experience those lovely spaces in your life. But what
Yeah.
it does is it opens up this vast, I am a vast being in a vast timeless existence. I just happen to
Mm.
be at the moment submerged in a time bubble. And when this
Yeah.
one ends, another one will begin. And so
Mm.
from the you can even begin to expand your view so that you go, well, I don't have to be in a hurry. I literally don't have to be in a hurry because I've got infinite other ones to explore this, and so I can actually make a complete balls up of this one. Actually, it's fine. So you can give yourself that permission as well. It's okay if I fail miserably at this or whatever it is. It's okay because I've got another shot and another shot and another shot. So I think intuitively what I've realized is that the universe is just vastly generous,
Mm.
and you only have to look at nature to see this, right? So people
Yeah.
that say you only have one life, you've got to make the most of it. It's like
Mm.
that. That is that's a half truth. The second bit's true. The first bit isn't. You know, yes, you've got
Yeah.
to make the most of it,
Yeah.
but you have
Mm.
in. You know, what kind of creator, if there is a creator, what kind of,
Mm.
would give you one life? Love would not give you
Mm.
one life. And
No.
if you believe that love
No.
is the source of all, love would just
Mm.
give you, well, of course, you can have as many as you want. Like, of course, go and explore, you know,
Mm.
and the divine, that's what the divine wants for us. It wants us, we're the divine, we're the children, right? And
Children.
so we get to play in the field of the Lord, or the, you know, out in this world, and our play is infinite and eternal. And
Mm.
as we awaken more, we even can carry more of that awareness between our lives, so that we can carry the awareness even through the doorway of death into the next existence, instead of it just choking off. So, but we have to, you
Mm.
know, it's only a contemplative mindset, heart set, that will give you that level of ingrained self-awareness, so that you can even carry
Mm.
it through the portal of your next death and birth. Yeah, so
Mm.
I mean, there's a delight that comes to the
Mm.
contemplative way, because you
Yeah.
stop taking things seriously,
Mm.
and you know, and like, it's an ironic position for someone like me who's developed a whole system and set of tools and things, because I don't
Mm.
take them remotely seriously, and it's
Mm-hmm.
a bit of a problem actually. So my team are
Well,
like
that's
saying,
who I
Richard,
want
you
to
can't.
go to,
Yeah.
though. But that's who I'm looking for now.
Right.
I don't want people to who are dying on their heels, who are promising me that if I do what they do, I'm going to
Yeah.
get what I like. I don't think people want to be lied to anymore. And
No.
there's a handful of people that I can say are truly saying like, this is what I'm getting, and do you want to join me on this, in this like same frequency, this feeling, this place that we're all talking about, but words aren't kind of like
No.
and not doing us justice, but we're doing the best we can with these tools that are limiting, which is language and
Yeah.
information, but ultimately we can you can provide knowledge and some kind of wisdom, but true wisdom has to be lived. And so like here are some wheels, go off and ride them, and then let us know what you find on your
Yeah.
own on your own
Yeah.
ride, and like come back and share.
Or let's ride them
Because
together is a fun thing for
yeah.
me with doing my online
Mm,
retreats, where I just like, let's go, a big group of us, and go together through these
mm,
sequences and explore
mm.
what comes out of it. That's joyous.
That's really fun. That's like everything done together is better, because it's like looking at a sunset on your own versus looking at it with someone else. It like
Yeah.
multiplies it 100 times. So tell me about these new retreats, and also tell me about, obviously it seems like, and I could be wrong, but it seems like you've also had another, to me, I'm like, he's on another level of like completely giving over of his, even the things that you, directions that you thought that maybe you wanted to take Gene Keys in, or the way you thought it had to go, or the way that the world maybe tells you that it has to go, and you've just reached this like level of, this is what like the fabric of life is kind of like giving me the taste to do, or whispering me to do, so I'm just following. Like the whisper is here, and now it's in my cells, and now I'm doing the whisper. Like, tell me about that.
Well, I guess I'm coming to the end of a cycle of my own as a teacher, as in a certain phase of teaching anyway, and so I'm kind of wondering how I'm going. It's like the question. I don't know. In a visionary meeting several years ago, we were talking about the Gene Keys business, because I'm obviously running, the Gene Keys business with a team, an amazing team who I
Mm,
absolutely adore. And so the question was like, how do we want this to end? Not like,
mm,
how do we want this to grow into a big success? Like, how do we want this to end?
mm.
It was a really
Wow.
great question to ask of any business,
Mm,
because it makes you think outside the box, and you really have to contemplate. Well, yeah, what? So one thing that's really clear is you need to do, if you have a business, you should design the business not to succeed, but to meet your needs, right?
mm.
And it's a very different thing,
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
and it, you might have had a business that's succeeded, but then it's like it never met your needs, or it just exhausted you, right? So
Yeah.
that becomes the question, and then you have to go. So I that's a question that I'm continuing to ask, like, how come, I'd like for the Gene Keys teachings to go on growing, but I definitely don't want the business to go on growing. I don't want it to get any bigger. It's a nice, small
Mm,
kind of 20, 30 people in a team, and we all get on really well, and we don't want it to kind of get more complicated. In fact,
mm-hmm.
we'd like it to be more simple. And so those are great questions. And so I'm kind of in that sort of flow of, um, I'm also sort of tired of the online um,
Mm-hmm.
work. And so I decided I'm going to do one last series of all the big online retreats myself this year, 2026,
Mm-hmm.
and into 2027. I was just going to do the whole lot in a sequence. So like over a
Wow.
year of online retreats led
Wow.
by me, and then I'm done. I won't lead anymore. They will carry on with other people,
Wow.
but they won't be led by me. And
Wow.
I will then, I'm then kind of saying I'm going to have a US tour in the end of 2027. We know that 2027 is a big year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to do 2 months, the end of 2027, as a sort of swan song. And then I'm just
Mm.
going to draw a line under my life. And I don't know what I'm going to do after that. But I imagine I'll be kind of wandering about, talking to people, and enjoying myself. And I'm
Mm.
sure I will still be teaching something, but
Yeah.
I don't know what it will be, and it might be more an
Mm.
embodied presence of the Gene Keys,
Yeah.
which is where I'm sort of at myself more. And so these next
Wow.
layers of retreats are going to be very much with a focus on embodiment, like what you and I have been talking
Mm.
about. and
Mm,
really ingraining the sort of self-discipline of a contemplative awareness into everyone that
mm,
participates. Because what I've noticed is that sometimes it's hard unless you have a rhythm. And
yeah.
if you've got a couple of thousand people or more, who are
Mm,
doing the same rhythm and they're all learning, and it's a
beautiful.
long form, right? So
Mm,
this is like for some people they've committed to the whole. It's like almost 16 months, right? That's
mm,
like, wow, that's so powerful
yeah.
for your inner life to make that level of a commitment. I'm going to just follow this
Mm,
whole path, right, let this teaching right into the heart of my being and embody
mm,
it at the deepest level possible. That's such a great
yeah.
commitment for it. If anyone is like into anything and they make that level of commitment, it's just going to be a success inside them, whatever it is,
Absolutely.
you know.
Yeah.
And so,
Absolutely.
so I'm sort of setting up these three different retreats so people
Mm,
want to do the first one is purpose, the second one is relationships and love. That's the big one. And
mm,
then the third one is prosperity. And, what is prosperity?
mm.
The pearl, these,
I
I'm
love
sure,
that.
like
Mm,
the activation sequence, the Venus sequence
yeah.
and the pearl sequence. And the kind of gem is the love one, Venus one,
Mm,
because that's where we meet our trauma at ever deeper and deeper layers. And so if we do the
beautiful.
purpose one first, it kind of grounds us, and then the love
Mm,
one clears us out. And I'd even say, like you were talking about soulmates, like for one to do that deep Venus work inside themselves and really gone through it and gone through that sequence and let it kind of, I mean, that's where you grow up. Each of us
yeah.
really grows up because we realize we're wounded and fallible, and the nonsense
Mm,
we're spouting out here, if we are, we just see it and we're like, oh my God, I'm so
yeah.
embarrassed.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, and you see it, and then you can be like truly who you are,
Yeah.
and you kind of get into that love space, and
Mm,
you then set yourself up so that if a soulmate were ever to arrive, they're going to arrive to
mm,
that person, right? Because
exactly.
that person is
Yeah.
going to then be able to handle it, right? And it may not happen
Mm-hmm.
in this life, but it doesn't matter
No,
because
doesn't
it's
matter.
like you'll be setting it up for the next. So,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll feel so good anyway. The part of you will be like, I don't think I care anymore. It's like,
I know.
because I
It's
have all these
true.
amazing friends and people around me, and I feel so much love.
Mm,
And so
mm,
that love then becomes self-fulfilling. And that I
yeah.
really, I just commend it to anyone that do Venus work. It will
Yeah.
start in the middle of next year, but if anyone's interested to come and do the whole thing, come and do it. Yeah.
I'm in.
Are you
So if
coming?
anyone wants to join me, I'm 100% coming.
Oh, good.
Um, and you know, Richard, I think, and it's worth saying, and you probably know this, but I think it can sound scary to people who are so conditioned with grow your business, because you mistake like what you said about the growing your business, meaning it's going to give you the same, like what do you want to get from it? I think people can like think that they're one and the same. Like the more it grows, then you'll automatically be happy, you'll automatically live your best day, whatever. But like if it's paved with days that you're not happy with the entire way, it ain't gonna end a different way than the way you've paved it, right? So I think what you're saying, and it's worth me saying to you and worth me saying to basically anyone, because of 2027 being a different year and being like the other side of that is going to be stuff that we can't even
No, we can't imagine.
conceive of from this lens, from where we stand right now. So I actually think that you making a, for want of a better word, plan, but it's not a plan, but
Yeah, it is a plan.
doing what is true to you, even though, well, you doing what's true to you, even if, for example, it might seem like, well, I have no idea what I'm going to do on the other side, and maybe I will teach and maybe I won't, and I'm just totally like giving over what that looks like. I mean, I think you're going to be one of the ones who's, I think everyone should be thinking like that now.
We
I think
should.
everyone should be
Yeah.
not necessarily like, giving up what we're doing,
No,
but just saying,
not.
that it's okay to listen to that random inkling that doesn't have this like more, more, more. My friend Kevin, who's an astrologer, put it as like we're in such a Marie Antoinette era right now. And actually, what you're doing is like doing a different thing that is calling you to orient your life towards a non-Marie Antoinette, more, better, 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 consume, 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 then I'll be happy. And I have to play the game of the online world, and I have to play the game of hooking people
And
and marketing
AI.
stuff to people and short things and all of this stuff. If you can just like pop that balloon and just do the contemplation and do that, I think people like you are going to be the ones who we're going to turn back around and we're like, oh my God, I wish I'd done that before
Yeah.
the thing turned, because it's going to
Well, I
turn so
said
quick.
I've sort of invited people like, look, 2026 is going to be a roller coaster year on this planet, and
Yeah.
I sort of invited people to like
Hmm.
imagine you got to 2027, and you're looking back at the beginning of
Yeah.
2026, right? And you're going to be one of the ones that said, oh wow, I made this commitment to becoming a much more deeply contemplative being. And then I went into this. You're going to be like, when you get to the end of that year of transformation, you are going to be so happy with yourself that you made that decision,
Hmm.
because everyone else is going to get hooked by whatever is going on in the outside
Yeah.
world, and it's going to be hectic and manic, and
Yeah.
it could be get scary as well. And so
Hmm.
you will be part of something, wherever wherever you do this, however you do this. It doesn't have to be through my program, but it's like, make sure you are on a path that is true and is like true to your inner being, and you're not hooked by the kind of mass hysteria that's you know beginning to kind of ramp up everywhere,
Yeah.
and you're part of it. You have become part of the problem in a way, as opposed to like
Hmm.
this blade that's cutting right through the center of the problem and coming out the other side clear and
Mm,
calm and ready for 2027 and whatever it may
mm,
bring, because we have no idea really. But I'm like, so where others may be freaking out because of potential
mm-hmm,
crisis around the planet,
mm-hmm,
you could be part of a community that's really clear and
mm,
um, yeah, just ready for that new epoch as it begins.
yeah,
And yeah, so
yeah,
you don't have to like I'm specific because I'm that age, so I'm at the end of a curve. So like you don't have to like you're not at the same place as me necessarily, most people, but you're right. In a way, I call 2026 the year of the closing door, because it's the
mm-hmm,
last year that the kind of old energies have any juice left available to
yeah,
them. So you can imagine, like, unconsciously, if those old energies feel that this is the last bit of their juice, imagine how they're going to behave. Do you know what I mean? Old
yeah,
paradigm energies next year are going to go nuts.
yeah,
Right? And so
yeah,
it's going to be scary out there
mm-hmm,
if you're
mm-hmm,
focused on the outside. Whereas if you've got a deep inner focus at the beginning, you're like,
mm,
right, we're gonna be fine whatever happens out there. We're not going to get sucked into that. We'll keep our ears open so we know what's going on,
mm-hmm,
but it's like we're not going to get
mm-hmm,
sucked in. We're going, because at the same time as the old entering its decline, new shoots are appearing on the inside. New spring shoots, and so this is
they're subtle,
it's very subtle, very subtle. And
subtle,
unless you have an inner practice, you're not going to hear them or feel
see them,
them,
mm-hmm.
because the first little spring bulbs are so subtle and tiny, and amongst the dark kind of winter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
And in the
yeah,
noise of the shiny carrots, even the spiritual ones, right?
yeah,
Like you said, they're going to be loudest right before they die off. Like these things, a hair off from the bud is here's the spiritual wealth code to give you blah, blah, blah. Or here's the 10 things. And all of that is a hair's away. And so those things are going to cling on to us in whatever format they're going to find us. Like they'll find us even if we're on a spiritual path. They'll find
mm,
us if we're in a materialistic path. They'll find us if we're controlling, if we're scared, you know, if we're a victim, if we feel sorry for ourselves, or whatever our costume is, if we're political, if we're an activist, even the most noble intentioned paths will have that old paradigm that's going to like try its hardest to like hook you
yeah,
back in right before you turn around and snuff it out and just say, just by me not participating in it, you die
Yeah.
off. Like you're no
Yeah.
longer part of my existence.
So true.
And that's the only
Yeah.
thing that we have to do is just be like, I see you for what you are, and I see you
Yeah.
hooking me in, and I'm going to choose the subtle, even though you're more exciting, and there's
Yeah.
cortisol, and there's adrenaline, and there's belonging, false belonging, and
Yeah.
other people admiring me, and blah, 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 blah. Like it's the ego death, right?
Yeah.
It's I'm giving up all of those things
Yeah.
in order to have this like something that doesn't give me an immediate thing, and it's never, maybe I can't even tell when it's gonna bring me any other kind of magic, but I'll try anyway.
I know. And it's next year is
I'm
like a perfect year for just emptying your cupboard. Like, so if you got any
mm,
more hidden skeletons in there or shadows right at the bottom, this is the perfect time to pull them out, those weeds, and just make sure you enter 2027 open, clear, free, ready, available for the new currents, so that you are kind of carried on those currents. I love that we'll be doing the Pearl sequence the first 4 months of 2027, which is collective prosperity,
oh,
you
oh
know,
wow,
and
oh that's
yeah.
beautiful.
And where are you?
Tell me about then.
Yeah, where do you?
Go
Yeah,
on.
where do you live?
I live all over the
But
place.
where are you based?
I'm kind of nomadic, mostly Ibiza.
Are you okay?
I spend quite a bit of time in America, and
Yeah,
I have
I
4 months.
figured
I
you
spend
would.
4 months in London, so
Okay,
I'm all
I'm
over
just
the
wondering because
place,
they're
but
like
I'm really
when we
excited.
do our US tour, we'll come by and visit you wherever you are.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure I'll come find you in either where you are or where I am. So listen, I mean, we could go on and on and on. I know it's late there for you, but I mean, Richard, it's such a joy to speak to you, and I really mean this. Like, I genuinely feel less alone in the world. Like, this is entirely selfish for me. Speaking to people like you, it makes me feel like, okay, there are other people who are saying the things that I really wish someone could echo to me, or the divine is really speaking through them. You're such an unfettered speaker, you're such an unfettered sharer. It's so coming from no agenda, and that level of purity, that's I think what we're all just craving so much at the moment, is like other pure beings to remind us and to cleave us back to our own purity. So I'm just grateful to speak to you, and thank you for sharing with everyone in this cluster. And like, I'm going to be in the three sequences, and I hope
Um,
people will
well,
join me. When does it start?
it kicks off on Epiphany, which is January the 6th or something. It's a perfect
Sixth.
day. Yeah. But
Oh wow.
there'll be some late enrollments going on in January. So January is sort of beginning. Yeah,
When we start.
yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
So yeah,
Well, I'll get all the details of like the number of hours, which day a week, all that stuff.
brilliant.
I'll
Yeah,
get that
yeah,
from you.
yeah.
But
It's very
uh,
it's our online retreats are incredibly multi-dimensional. So they've got things, and this one
mm,
more than any because it's the last one I'm doing. So we're chucking everything
mm.
in, right? So we've got like multiple guides and hosts and different kind of things that you can choose from throughout the year. So
Mm,
if you are
cool.
strategic, right, and you love
Mm,
knowing about the gene keys and your gene keys, you might follow Elijah Parker, who's doing a decoding your profile
hmm.
in depth series throughout the whole year,
Love that.
right? If you
Mm,
want the kind of wisdom stuff from me, you'll get that from me. The ceremonial sort of stuff from me. If you want to
hmm,
be held in a space as a community, in a loving space of graciousness, we also
mm.
create that as well. So we create,
Beautiful.
and then there's lots of experts in lots of kind of fields who are offering adjunct kind of offerings in for our guides,
Mm,
and ambassadors. So it's a very rich program. So if you want to do,
mm.
if you love dance, you can do dance for the whole way through your
Love
golden
that.
path, your gene key
Wow.
sequences, in the
Cool.
hands of a dance expert. If you want to do,
Huh.
I don't know, human design, there'll be someone who
Yeah.
is an expert who will help, whatever it is
Fabulous.
that you love and how it'll be integrated into the journey. So
Oh
it's
wow.
very
It sounds like
rich.
you've got all singing, all dancing.
I'm chucking everything out. It's just I said this is my last one, so let's just like really make it rich.
Go
And
for it.
yeah, yeah, don't miss this one if you like if you're watching this. Like
It's
it'd be
perfectly on
good fun.
time though. Like for you to be deciding this, and the way it lines up with the timing of your life, and the
Yeah,
way it lines up with the timing of the world, it's
I know
perfection.
it is perfection actually.
Like can't make it up, but that's what happens, is everything lines up, everything is perfect when
Yeah,
you're living the way that you're helping us and
yeah.
suggesting that we do. So Thank you so much for being here. This was incredible. I'm gonna obviously ask to have you back on, or,
Yeah, well, let's
I'm sure
talk a
other
bit
things
more.
will line up, but
I'd love to. And actually, I'd love if
yeah,
you're on the retreat, I'd love to invite you on as a guest. Like, come and talk to our community, at some point about you
with
and what,
pleasure.
because you're an amazing being, Jenna. You've got some
Thank
incredible
you.
insights, inside you, and I'd
Thank
love the
you.
chance to hear more from you.
Listen, I love a microphone, so just be careful with that invite.
No,
Thank you so much. This was incredible. And just to everyone listening, I hope that this just gave you exactly what you needed at the time you needed to the fullest that it could have given you. We're all connected. I literally feel as if we're having this conversation with everyone at the same time. Like the words that you're saying are the words that they're thinking that they want to say, and I'm saying what someone else is like. It's just all just collapsed. I felt like it just all collapsed in this conversation. And it will just like open up like a box. I'm going to listen to it again. But thank you so much. This was
thanks,
incredible.
Jenna.
And yeah, they can obviously just go to genekeys.com
Yeah.
for everything. But let's all go on this retreat together. I'm excited.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the
we
Sage's
need this for
Golden Path
2027.
retreat. It's because I never actually told you about my new book, but anyway.
Oh, please do tell me about this book.
Okay, it's taken me 6 years to write. It's my magnum opus. Like, if you thought the Gene Keys was it isn't. This is the book that I came here to write, and it's my Gene Keys I Ching, and it has all 384 lines, but they're in a completely they have no shadow in them. All the shadow's been taken out, and it's for the future human. It's to remind us of where we're going, and so the Golden Path, this retreat that we're doing, the sage lines are going into the program. So when you come along, you will get your lines and your gene keys. So you'll be the first people that see your lines, for the first time. And they're very, they're just like wild. They're from everything I've ever read, known, heard about, from my
Mm,
whole long and kind of interesting life. And,
mm,
they're drawn from all kind of creeds and myths, and
wow.
it's an I Ching for the whole of the planet, and so it's magical as well, and wizardly, and kind of mysterious and enigmatic, and
Mm, I
it's
feel
got
it.
poetry, and it's got guidance, and it's got oracle, and it's got mythos, and it's multi-layered and multi-dimensional, and yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
It's a fun book, and it's going into the program. So, or not the whole of it, but like, the most relevant parts.
Okay,
Yeah,
everyone who's listening, you know that someone who is so deep and rich in their insides and so full of wisdom that like something we could have spoken about for 90 minutes is getting put in as an afterthought to the conversation.
it's true. It's funny.
Like you've just written the book that you came here to write in this like the last 2 minutes of us chatting.
Yeah, it'll be out in the
Like,
summer. That's what
but
everyone wants to know. When's it coming?
wow,
But
I'm
if you
blown
want to catch
away.
the
Like
early
I'm truly
wave of
blown
it,
away.
come and do the retreat, because then you'll
Mm-hmm.
get yours imprinted into your program. That's how our retreats work. They're kind of very clever, that the
Yeah.
program kind of works around your profile.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. And that's like appreciating original content is genuinely that you're not repeating. It's not a hot take anymore that the world is changing. It's not a hot take anymore that people are becoming more telepathic. But what you're saying is like, I mean, telepathy is going to be normal. Like
Yeah.
us being psychic is going to be normal. You're saying bending time. You're saying, I mean, you're
I
even
am.
saying
That's
that
actually the
slightly in the
name of
Gene
my new
Keys.
book.
You know, well, there you go. There you are. But
Tell me, like, because this would be a nice way to end, Jenna, if you can bear
yeah,
going on another 2 minutes.
of course, of course.
What's the line of what if I were to read one of your gene keys and line, which one would you like it to be?
Well, I guess my main one is 19.2.
Okay, and that's your life. Which is
That's
that?
my, yeah, my biggie.
That's your
It's my
life's
sun
work, your
personality.
personality sun, right?
Mm.
In human design. So let's
Mm-hmm.
find out what that is. Um, it's called, that line in my book is called augury, listening to and
Mm.
learning from the magical messages in nature.
Oh,
And
wow.
then it has a sutra. It's called the art of magical thinking. The art of magical
Mm.
thinking, the power of infinite living, the discipline of daily wonder, the reward of embodied being. So that's a little,
Wow.
okay. And then there's a contemplation. I'm going to read you that. There is magic
Mm.
in this line. Our ancestors had this gift to read the patterns of nature and see reflected there the dharma of the future. Augury is often linked to the patterns of birds, guardians of our future. But this line is not about sorcery. It hides a great truth that our universe is a hologram, and in each moment, the next moment is encoded. This is the meaning of magical thinking. One who listens deeply to nature, to the elements, birds, animals, is one who is given the gift of foresight. Omens and portents surround us constantly, but only the awakened will notice them, and even then they may not speak what they see unless asked directly. And then your little mythos, which is the little sentences for you. You're a magical being designed to live closely with nature. Listen, like St. Francis, to the birds and creatures. Develop the art of magical thinking. Do not squander the gifts given to you at birth. Live simply and lightly on the earth as our ancestors did. You'll find a level of joy and wholeness that is rare in our modern world. Most importantly, you'll be a model to others of how to live in deep peace and constant creativity. Isn't that beautiful?
That's
So
stunning.
your
And
life's
it's,
work is all about magical thinking, which is what you
yeah,
do.
I feel it. It is what I do. And I wrote it down 2 days ago only. I was thinking about prophecy, and I was kind of,
Augury.
there we are. That's the word is
Yeah.
I've always been able to tell the future since I was a child. And to me, which is exactly what you're saying, which is this means not to everyone else, but to me, it means when you're so radically aware of the present moment, the next one is literally the word you used, it's encoded in this one.
Yeah.
And so it's like a math, it's like an equation. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
here it is.
Yeah.
It's here. It's taken me a long time to understand that. And so I know that this book is going to be the sort of candle holder or the lighthouse to the thing that you wish you kind of know to be true about yourself if you could like make it up in the most magical version of life. But it's going to be this like beacon of the gifts that you have that no one even talks about, like base, not base level gifts, like next level gifts. So
Yeah.
again, by the way, the perfection of you and telling me this and me hearing this when I'm supposed to hear it, like everything is just lining up. I'm psyched for this book.
Yeah.
And
I'll
I'm
send
so
you
excited
yours.
for
But yeah, it'll
everything.
it's funny because back in the day, he's, when we were traveling together a bit, he and I, and he told me I'd do this. Like I never knew. He said, you're going to write your I Ching one day and you'll write the I Ching that won't have any shadow in it. And that's what I ended up doing. I never told anyone that he told me that, by the way, until this moment.
Wow. Wow.
Because I remember
That's
him saying it to me.
amazing.
We were driving. We were in Devon, actually, where I live, and we were driving in the car. And that's when he said it to me. And I remembered it. Yeah. So he was right.
Oh
He
my
had
gosh.
that gift as well, being able to
Insight.
see.
Augury. I'm gonna
Yeah.
look up that word as well. What a beautiful word.
Augury, it's a beautiful word. Yeah, it's similar to
Beautiful
prophecy,
word.
more ancient, more mysterious, more wizardly.
Ugh, you really are. Something that what you do with words is just magical is not the word for it. It's like I'll find it. Or probably you'll find it, but there's something that you find the way to make them the most non-limiting. I don't know. That's what I feel at the
Well, take
moment.
them as
You
far as they can.
transcend just literal words. Yeah, you stretch them to their most ineffable version.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. This was such a pleasure. I'll see everyone in this dancing through the gene keys, through the golden path. And I'll speak to you soon anyway. But thank
Yeah.
you so much for being here. This was like the best start to my day. I'm gonna like float on a cloud after this.
Thanks, Jenna. I really
And we'll
appreciate
put
it.
all the information. But thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Bless you.